And welcome to a new episode of The Simpsons Did It. I'm your host, Steven Skolansky.
And I'm your co-host, Robert Skolansky.
And it's Sunday.
Sunday.
But not that type of Sunday.
No.
No monster trucks, no NASCAR. It's football Sunday.
It's football season.
It is football season.
It's the most wonderful, second most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. Except I don't gamble on football.
No, I don't really gamble much on sports. I mean, I do fantasy football at work.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the extent of it. We're not as crazy as Homer and the gang is.
I did, however, win $20 this year.
Ooh, fun.
For fantasy football. So, I went from worst to second.
All right. Perfect.
So, this week we are talking season 3, episode 14, Lisa the Greek.
I mean, is that because she's smart like the Greeks?
Probably.
Maybe.
I would assume so.
I guess I don't quite understand the title necessarily.
I don't get it either. Air date, January 23rd, 1992.
Ooh.
92. And we are one episode away from 50?
One episode away from 50. Next episode, guys, we are on 50, which means we're only 2 episodes away from our 1-year anniversary of The Simpsons Did It.
Yeah, so we got some big dates coming up. Recap. Homer discovers Lisa's knack for picking football winners, which he exploits, as Homer would do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's funny. We'll get to it on how crazy Lisa's predictions are and why she picks them and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy.
And so this is a little bit longer of an episode, so they forewent the chalkboard gag this week.
Yeah, and I think they even cut out...
They cut out everything. They just did the couch gag, which was a repeat this week. Simpsons sit on the couch and Homer pulls Santa's little helper out beneath him. We talked about it when it happened the first time. Yeah. We don't really need to get into it a second time.
No, but it's kind of funny to think this episode needed to go that much longer.
Yeah, I don't know if it really needed to be that long, but there's a lot in it.
There is, yeah. And so we open up the episode this week with Homer watching Inside Football Today, week 8.
Yeah, so they're halfway through the season.
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, when this episode aired in January, it was 2 weeks. Playoffs.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, but like we've mentioned, Simpson episodes are written and drawn and everything 6 months to even a year prior, so... Yeah, you kind of have to take a guess on when an episode's going to air.
Yes.
This show was hosted by Brent Gunselman, who is reference to Brent Musburger.
So any football fans out there will know who Brent Musburger is.
Yep. And Inside Football Today is a reference to the NFL Today, which is on CBS, which is pregame, basically the pregame to...
Except for, this pregame went for, 5 hours.
No, 6 hours.
6 hours. Oh, that's right, yeah. Because game starts... Well, so in this episode, I guess game started at noon Central Time.
Yep. And so, I mean, to be fair, you wake up at 6 a.m. to start watching your football pregame, right?
Or I wake up at 11 a.m. and start at 11 and just watch an hour of it like a normal person.
Yep. And so, kind of in the Simpsons world as it is in the real world, games start at noon. And the last game before Sunday Night Football ends around 6.
Which is the math.
Yeah. About 6 hours of football.
For the afternoon, at least.
And so a couple things which we'll point out, but we won't get too deep into because obviously timing of the episode.
They did pick the correct teams that these teams played, but in the wrong weeks.
Yes. So Denver did not play the Patriots in week 8 in 91. They played them in week 9.
Which is pretty close.
Which is close. And Miami didn't play Cincinnati until week 15. And Miami played Houston, and Denver played Kansas City during this week 8 pick. So it's kind of funny to think how close they were to picking these games. Obviously, depending on when the episode was written, schedule probably wasn't out yet. But historically, they probably took historical data.
Yeah.
And were like, hey, these teams play each other normally.
Or they just went by because usually, right now, teams know who they're playing and they know where they're playing. They don't know when they're playing. So they probably just assume, they're playing this team, we'll just throw them in week 8. They didn't even guess. They probably just said, screw it, we're just going to put them here.
Yep. And so Homer takes off his belt, and as he's taking off his belt, it makes a whipping sound.
That was kind of a funny sound gag.
Yep. And so I love how Homer sits down with a couch full of
God.
snacks. Like, they're literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's able to eat them all by reaching over his shoulder, down by his side, in a bag of chips. And so I wrote down all the snacks that Homer did have. So he had new barbecue chips.
Yes.
He had pork rinds, traditional Homer.
Yep.
Salt doodles. Crunchy corns. So I'm guessing that was a crusty base snack.
Like something like corn nuts?
Corn nuts, maybe, but it was spelled with a K. So it was crunchy and corns were spelled with a K. And 2 cans of dip. And he washed it all down with a can of Duff.
I mean, you gotta drink beer while you're watching football.
I mean, this sort of platter of stuff is more for a party.
Yeah, but it's Homer.
Homer's a party of one.
Yeah.
So I love how Marge walks in and she's concerned by all the fatty, salty foods that Homer eats.
Yes.
And says it can't be good for his heart. And as we see kind of a shot of Homer's heart.
Yeah.
And it's clogged as Homer's eating.
And then he just like...
He hits his chest to get it off, and then he takes a drink of beer and says, that'll put out that fire.
Oh my God.
And
Homer.
So I don't think we're too far off from Homer's triple bypass.
Yeah.
I feel like we're getting fairly close to that episode.
Yes.
And so obviously this is kind of the beginning parts of Homer's heart attack.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's fat.
Yes. And so, but I like how he gains and loses weight.
Yeah.
Like he'll either have, weight loss episode or
a weight gain episode.
Weight gain episode. And I love how Homer has no consistency whatsoever.
Yes.
So the show cuts to a guy who is making picks, and he picks 52% right of the time.
Yes.
And his name is Smooth Jimmy Apollo.
Voiced by Phil Hartman.
Yep.
Because Phil Hartman does a lot of voices.
Yes, he does. And so he, I do like how he's like kind of the big guy on campus. He, I think the network probably hired him on as, hey, tell us all these picks. And week 1, Denver versus New England is too close to call.
And I want to point out, because we'll get into this in a little bit, but this game starts at 1 p.m. Eastern.
So noon Central.
Noon time. But I'll bring it up when we get back to it.
Yep.
I want to just point it out for all you guys to keep that in the back of your mind.
And so Homer bets $20 on Denver because the guy told him to. And so I like how he's looking for his little black book and he sees Wiggum at the end with his beer on it. He's like, what was it? He was
like, hey.
Oh yeah, here we go. He's like, Mo, I'd like to bet $20 on Denver. And Mo's like, I think I could provide that service.
Yeah.
Chief Wiggum, could you hand me that little black book? He's like, oh, sure thing, Mo. I was just using it as a coaster.
Oh my God. And it's funny because, bookkeeping like that is illegal.
Yes.
But Chief Wiggum is
dumb.
I was going to say incompetent, but no.
Yep, and we see a couple entries in the betting book, and they're listed as Barney, $5 for Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Smitty, $12 on New Orleans.
And then Homer.
And Homer, $20 on Denver.
And so we cut back to Homer watching the New England game, and within the first 13 seconds of the game, New England scored a touchdown. So my guess is there was a touchback, or there is a little bit of a kickoff return, and then the very next play they scored a touchdown, which is it happens.
Yeah, well, kickoff return for it happened. Bears Indianapolis Colts Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it was like 2013 or something like that.
2007.
Wow, I'm off by a little bit. So, but that year, that whole Super Bowl opened up.
No. 2007 was my sophomore year.
It opened up with a Bears touchdown on kickoff. So it could definitely happen. Now, I didn't look this up, and I don't know if you did either. I was just wondering if New England was good yet.
In 92?
In 92, or...
I know they went to the Super Bowl in 96 or 97 because they played the Packers that year, and the Packers absolutely destroyed them in the Super Bowl.
And obviously it wasn't quite Tom Brady era yet and stuff like that.
But, I don't know if because I think that was still Miami in the early 90s.
Yeah, with
and
Dan
Buffalo
Marino
and New York. I don't think New England was great, but I don't know if Denver was good in 92 either.
Yeah.
I didn't really look it up. I probably should have. And so we have kind of an animation error. So when Marge, walks in, see Homer eating all of his food. And when Homer calls Mo, all of his snacks surround him.
Yep.
However, when we cut back, they're all, like, there's a couple boxes, but they're all gone. Lisa comes in to show Homer her modest studio apartment for Malibu Stacy that she made out of a shoebox. And Malibu Stacy, as we all know, is based off of Barbie. And when we cut back to Homer, all of his snacks are there again.
Yes. Yeah, that was crazy.
I was like...
I mean, I get what it's funny because that sort of thing happens in live action.
Yes.
All the time. And I feel like in animation, it shouldn't, because if you're drawing that stuff...
I kind of wonder if maybe the two scenes got, like, translated wrong, and, like, they drew without, and then they're like, oh, this needs it, and it got switched.
Maybe. That's definitely possible.
And so now Lisa's upset because Homer isn't paying attention to her, and... to be fair, why would she go to Homer? She should know Homer doesn't care.
No, but we do know that after he got the pony for Lisa, they kind of had bonding and connected and stuff like that. So maybe she was kind of on the, hey, he's...
But it's also football Sunday. I mean, now to be fair, when we were kids, we were never really home on Sundays for football because our mom took us out to go grocery shopping or clothes shopping or whatever because she never wanted to be around her dad because her dad's a Bears fan, and we all know the Bears suck.
Back then, mid-'80s and
early 90s, they were bad. And so I don't think this would be something Homer would be interested in seeing her, shoebox apartment for Malibu Stacy. I mean, I feel like that's something more Lisa should go to show Marge.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
So, Lisa's upset with Homer, so she decides to go into the kitchen, and where Marge is bathing Maggie in the sink. And, I don't remember, maybe you remember when I was a baby, if Mom ever watched this in the sink.
Mom said she did, because I asked her about it, because I know... when we had Elliot, that was one of the things Mom suggested was doing the bath in the sink. And I'm like,
well, they're tiny.
That's stupid.
But they're tinier, and it's easier to get them into a sink.
Well, they make things nowadays.
Oh, it's true.
Where it's like a little basket, you put it in the bathtub, and they sit in it, you raise the water about 2-3 inches off the ground, so you have water, and they get used to being in a bathtub and stuff like that, and you bathe them. And I thought, yes, it was a common thing, I think, in the 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. But I think it fell away because...
now they make things.
So,
Maggie, says good job to Lisa for her cleverness. But she's, upset.
Marge,
what did I say, Maggie?
Yeah, I don't think Maggie knows.
Maggie doesn't talk, you're right. Marge praises Lisa for her cleverness. But, Lisa's, tells her she's upset because Homer doesn't understand anything she does. And... well, let's see. I mean, back in the 90s, the whole thing was, I don't think dads necessarily understood their daughters.
No.
Some of them, I'm sure, tried. But, nowadays, I don't think that would be an issue. But Marge does raise a good point with Lisa. She asks him, well, do you take any interest in what Homer has? Yep. And she goes, no. So, and it's a two-way street. I mean... your kid should probably, watch what you're doing. Like, oh, that seems interesting. Maybe I should see it, make a connection. But as parents, you should try to also be making connections because that's the job of the parent.
If you do look at it, though, even in, maybe it wasn't necessarily now, I don't know when it started, but females, I feel like nowadays are just as into football as guys are.
I mean, I think part of it, too, back in the day was... football is a man sport.
Yes.
And so females shouldn't watch man sports. And it's dumb.
Well, I think they would be watching man sports. Be like, ooh, look at that hunk Tom Brady. That's why the girls watched it, because they're like, ooh, look at that hunk Tom Brady. Or look at that hunk Aaron Rodgers, man.
Nobody's saying look at that hunk Mitchell Trubisky.
No.
Or I'm sure, well, he's married, so I'm sure his wife...
Now, Jay Cutler, on the other hand, he was a dreamboat.
If you say so. But, our mom loves hockey. She loves baseball. I don't necessarily like going to hockey games with our mom because I don't like how she cheers.
Yeah.
But, men and women can enjoy the same thing. And also, in the kitchen, you see behind Marge, there is a crack in the wall.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. We know that the Simpsons aren't well off. I guess they have enough. They have enough money to afford the house and 3 kids, barely, on Homer's salary. But, maybe it was an animation mistake, or maybe they meant to put that crack there.
Yeah, they're just foundation wall or whatever. Just completely collapsing.
And so I love how, Marge tells Lisa that she fakes being interested in Homer's power tools and car chase movies so that she can please Homer. And I don't know if your wife kind of does this a little bit with you.
No, she definitely says, I don't want to watch this, and leaves the room. That's why we have 2 TVs or 3 TVs.
But you're not telling me she doesn't try to fake interest in something?
No.
Okay, I mean,
I guess she doesn't like it. I technically have. See, that's the problem. I have to fake interest things.
Oh, so you're Marge.
Exactly, in this scenario.
I mean, I've been single for a long time, but, even if I did have a significant other, if they're telling me something they like, but I have no interest in it, I'm still going to show excitement. I'm still going to show excitement because I want my partner to be happy.
Yeah. Oh, you know how many bands I've gone and see that I don't like?
Hanson?
No.
And so, and then I love how she's like, oh, and there's other things too that I'll tell you about when you're older. Yeah, we all know, what Marge is talking about there. So, and again, you don't have to be interested in the same thing as your partner, but, you should definitely, encourage them to like the things they like.
Yep. And so we see Bart walking into the kitchen, and I like how he puts a bowl in the sink after he's done. We know where Maggie's having her bath, and Marge yells at him.
To be fair to Bart, though, he was being responsible.
Yeah, weirdly enough. Instead of leaving it on the floor of his room, on the kitchen table.
Or on the counter.
But the funny thing is, Marge should realize that there's already soap in the sink.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. 2 things at once. Watch Maggie, wash the dishes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a multitasker, right?
Yes.
And so we cut back to the living room, and New England is now winning 35-7 in the 3rd quarter. And we looked it up. Denver won the real game 9-6. So
this was not even close.
Must have been a defense-heavy.
Clearly, there was game. What is that? 5 field goals, or at least 3.
No, they got Denver's score really close.
Oh,
they picked how bad Denver was going to be.
But they didn't pick how bad New England was going to be.
No. And so I like how Lisa sits down. She asks Homer, wouldn't it be fun to watch the game together? And Homer's like, fine, as long as you don't talk. And Lisa sits kind of right next to Homer. He's like, a little bit farther. A little bit farther.
All the way to the end of the couch.
Yep. And so Lisa sighs because now she's like, well, why am I even doing this? And Homer yells at her saying he can't hear the announcer.
Over a sigh.
Yeah. And she says the announcer said Denver just fumbled.
He goes, no. Oh.
Yep. And so now Bart is in the backyard melting his army men. Was it front yard?
Yeah, he was in the front yard.
Yeah, melting his army men, which...
It's Bart.
But I feel like at this point, I don't know if you necessarily should be hanging out alone. I don't know.
At his house?
Well, no, I guess on a Sunday I would be like, okay, no school, let's go hang at Millhouse's.
That's true. Well, maybe Millhouse was busy.
Maybe. And so Marge comes out and suggests that while Lisa and Homer are bonding over football, that they go clothes shopping, which I don't think that's a fair trade.
No, that's not a fair trade.
Like an opposite.
No.
And Bart says he doesn't need new clothes, kind of like kids will do. And Marge turns him around and she sees the back of Bart's clothes are stained, ripped, have holes in them.
And, so he says he doesn't need clothes, so that leads me to believe he's wearing these clothes to school, which, wouldn't he be ridiculed for that at school?
I mean, if Nelson can get away with it, right? Because he's like the poor kid, and he's the Kenny of Springfield, right?
But also, I can't imagine Marge would let Bart go to school in those clothes.
Yeah.
Maybe they're his Sunday clothes.
Now, I want to know, and we haven't gotten to this part yet, but okay, so remember when we get the shot of Homer's closet?
Yes.
It's a future episode, it's like the same outfit.
Yeah.
Over. Do you think Bart's closet's the same way?
We don't really see him in a whole lot of different clothes outside when they go to church.
Exactly. So I almost wonder if Bart's just wearing his clothes thin, but I don't know why you would wear the same. If he has other options of the same outfit, why would he be wearing this one?
Yeah.
I don't know. So they head to the mall and they go to Oui Monsieur, which is the discount children's clothing outlet in the Springfield Mall.
Yeah.
And kind of funny that they have outlet store at a mall, because usually there's a specific outlet mall
Yeah.
for that, but I guess you never know.
So we cut back to, Homer and Lisa watching the game, and we find out New England won 55-10.
Yep.
That's a slaughter. And then, Jimmy's like, oh, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. And Homer just goes, why didn't you say that before? Homer, it's simple frickin' math.
Yep. And so the next game up is Miami versus Cincinnati, which starts at 2 p.m. Eastern.
And this is why I brought up earlier where the New England game started at 1 p.m. Eastern. I don't think in the early 90s they started one game and then started another game at 2.
They didn't stagger them?
They didn't stagger them like that. Usually, like nowadays, the first set of games starts at noon. The second set of games starts at like 3 to 3:30. And then you have your night game that starts at 7. So, but in this instance, the game started at 1. The New England game.
Yep.
This says this game is starting at 2. There is no way that game lasted an hour.
The only other thing, I mean, obviously we can't go through what the Simpsons writers were thinking. Maybe they weren't. Well, actually, I did learn something on, so next week, 2 weeks from now, we have a special guest.
Yep.
And I learned from his podcast that this specific episode was made because the writers had a gambling problem. They bet on everything from football. And so I would have to imagine that if these guys are that much gamblers, they would know how football schedules
exactly
work. Now, the other thing is maybe the game just started late. Rain delay. I don't know.
I highly doubt that.
Yep.
So, I mean, again, there's no way New England, Denver lasted an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
most NFL games, although
2.5 to 3.
About 3. Although this year seemed a lot quicker because there's no fans.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And so Smooth Jimmy picks Miami as his lock of the week. And he pulls out a big lock.
That's his lock of the week.
Yep. Well, you got to have some sort of gimmick, right?
Yeah. And so Homer's like, well, I don't know. You were wrong last time. So he turns on another preview where a different sportscaster picks Cincinnati to be his shoe-in of the week, written on a large shoe, because that's the gimmick. And then he turns on another channel where we see Professor Frink and his Gambletron 2000, which picks Cincinnati to win by 200 points. And then Frink starts kicking it.
Why does Professor Frink have his own football picking show?
Because he's a scientist?
I feel like he's much better suited for other things, unless he is just an addictive gambler as well. And he's like, you know what? Have me on TV for half an hour. I'll pick some games.
Yeah. So then Homer flips on yet another TV pre-show, and it's a coach who says, call the coach's hotline. And the number is 1909-WIN-BIG with 2 G's. So Homer's like, screw it, I'll call the hotline. And then the guy's like, oh, it's free for the first minute and then like $1 after that. And so he calls it and the guy just speaks really slow to make money.
Yep.
And Homer says, don't you know this is costing me money?
He's like, and this week Cincinnati. Like Homer's actually like trying to get him to go faster, even though I'm assuming it's a record. It has to be a recording.
Yeah. And so Homer is like, screw this. He turns to Lisa and he's like, Lisa, why don't you pick? And so she picks the Dolphins. And so Homer calls Mo and puts $50 on them. And then we see Krusty call in next to put $700 on the Rams. And I love how Sideshow Mel honks his horn. And Krusty's like, oh yeah, put $2,000 down for Mel. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. As we said, the writers and like the people who worked on The Simpsons were big gamblers. So that's probably where this kid was.
So Mel apparently makes more money on the Krusty the Clown show than Krusty does?
Well, don't forget, Krusty is a chronic gambler.
Yeah, but Krusty only put $700
Maybe
down.
Mel is a better gambler than Krusty. And then, as you said, Bart and Marge go to Wee Mansour. Bart wants to go home, but Marge wants him to try on a shirt. And, Bart's like, well, I'm going to get beaten up in this shirt. And Marge replies, anyone who beats you up for wearing a shirt isn't your friend. I guess?
Well, I'm sure he'll get ridiculed by his friends for wearing said shirt. But I love how she piles the clothes up over his head. And I'm like, so exactly where are these clothes after Marge apparently buys them dumpster fire?
I don't know. But I do also like where she like stacks them high and she goes, Bart, don't make that face. And he goes, How do you know? A mother always knows. So then we cut back to Lisa and Homer, and Lisa's imitating Homer's cheering as, you know, the Dolphins are scoring, good things are happening, and then they win, and Homer goes, woohoo, 50 big ones, and then Lisa gets very confused.
Yep, and so Homer tells Lisa that Mo promised to give Homer $50 if the Dolphins won. And Lisa was like, oh, so it's gambling. And, you know, Lisa was like, you know, what could be more exciting than savage ballet that is pro football? And Homer's like, well, you know, you like ice cream, don't you? Uh-huh. And you don't like ice cream, when better when it's covered with hot fudge and mounds of whipped cream and chopped nuts and, oh, those crumbled up cookie things they mash up.
Crumbled cookie things.
Crumbled up cookie things. And Lisa's like, so gambling makes a good thing even better. That's right. My God, it's like there's some kind of bond between us.
Oh my God, Homer.
Yep. And so now we cut back to the dressing room, and there's a sign in the dressing room where, you know, this room is monitored at all times, which I'm assuming is illegal, or always has been illegal.
I don't know. I
don't know.
guarantee you. So I know working at Target, and I don't know if you remember this working at Target, there are cameras outside of the dressing room.
Well, yeah, to show who's going in and
but
with what.
I know for sure it's illegal to put cameras in bathrooms.
Yeah, I would have to imagine.
It's the same thing with dressing room.
And so Bart takes down the cardboard and writes, what do you write? Get bent, and then holds it up to the camera. And the security's like, oh, we got to go get him. And then he's like, wait a minute. We have a code red. That girl didn't walk in with those socks on.
They grab shotguns.
And then they grab shotguns.
That's a little overkill.
Well, they're very serious with their job.
Yes.
And so I like how Marge is looking for Bart, and she opens up the drawer to his dressing room. Yeah. And apparently Sherry Terry is there shopping too,
I guess,
and sees Bart in his underwear, and, you know, everyone in the store turns and starts laughing at Bart.
I mean, I think if our mom did that, I'd be pissed.
Oh, well, it's Bart, so yeah. I'm sure he was pissed too.
Yes.
And so Lisa tells Homer that Marge will be excited when she comes home and tell her they won $50.
Yep.
And Lisa, you know, thinks that, or, you know, Homer tells Lisa that Marge thinks it's crazy to gamble.
Yep.
Even though it's in the Bible.
It's okay. Where in the Bible? Way in the back.
Somewhere in the back.
I mean, I don't think there's... I've never read the Bible. I think there might be something in the Bible about gambling being a sin. I don't know.
I honestly don't know.
So Marge comes home, and Homer and Lisa tell her they had a good time. And then I love how she's like, oh yeah, Bart and I had a fun time too. Bart's outside right now modeling his new clothes for his friends, and it's Jimbo and Kearney and Dolph like pushing the car back and forth trying to get
gotta
Bart
come out sometime.
No, Marge, Bart did not have a good time. Not at all. I wouldn't have a good time if that happened to me. And so Lisa asks Homer if they can watch football the next Sunday, and Homer says, sure, you will find it gets rid of that unpleasant aftertaste of going to church.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, we went to Sunday school every Sunday, and when we came home,
we didn't get to stay around for football.
No, but I bet it would have been good just to do nothing for
a
6
couple
hours.
Yeah. Normally, I mean, I guess if the Bears game wasn't on until the afternoon or they weren't playing that week, I guess we got to stay home, but yeah. So Homer tucks Lisa in, and he walks away, and Marge comes in, and Marge is happy that Lisa and Homer are bonding, and I love how Lisa's like, Dad tucked me in a little too tight. I can't feel my arms or legs. That's a little tight.
Yeah.
It's a little tight. So we cut to the next day, or the next week, and Homer is about to bet on teams playing against New York, but Lisa says she would bet her entire college fund on New York, which seems like it is only $23 because that is how much Homer bets. So,
well, I think it's grown. Wasn't it at like a couple bucks a few episodes ago or something?
Maybe $23. I mean, she's only 8, so
it's getting there.
Yeah, it'll get there. And so then I think we cut to another week, or this might be the same day. Oh no, it is the same day. Homer asks Lisa about the afternoon games, And I love her picks. So
Yep.
she picks the 49ers because they are pure of heart, Seattle because they have something to prove, and the Raiders because they always cheat. And I don't know if that was true in the early 90s. I mean, nowadays the Raiders are kind of a laughing stock.
Yeah.
They were good in the early 2000s, but
maybe they successfully
did they Bill Belichick their way through?
Yeah, exactly. The Simpsons predicted the New Orleans cheating scandal.
Oh my god! And then I love how they cut to the end of the Raiders game and they won on an extremely suspicious play, whatever that could have been.
Oh, that's so good.
And so Lisa's now all cool with the football, so she wants to learn more. And she goes to the library. We're in the library. It reads. There's a banner in there that reads, "The library, the hip place to be."
Which I don't think it's ever been a hip place to be.
No, it has not.
Yep, and Lisa asks if the new sign really works, and the librarian says, "This place has been a madhouse."
And there's like one person in there.
Yep, and so Lisa goes over to the card catalog.
Yes.
Which, I don't know if they still exist or if they're
I'm
all
sure they still
computerized
do.
now. But she's like, let's see, football, homoeroticism in, oddball Canadian rules, Phyllis George, and... football, like all these are and football, so like let's see, football, homoeroticism,
God,
football, odd Canadian rules because Canadian football,
CFL,
so that's pretty funny. Like she's trying to do research on it, and so we cut back, and Maggie and Snowball 2 are hanging out with Lisa and Homer, which hey, family affair now, except for Bart and Marge, and Maggie even has a soft toy football, so she's getting involved.
Yes.
And so Lisa explains how she knew Houston was going to lose, and Homer says his little girl says the cutest things.
Oh my god. Yeah, Lisa's smart.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if she's looking at the numbers or if she's picking like Shay would pick. Like okay, so a couple months ago we had March Madness.
Yes.
And I also like, Shay always wants to pick a bracket based on whether it's a funny animal or real.
So here's the thing.
pigs.
So when I worked, so this was 2011, 2012. So the 2012 March Madness, the girl who won the bracket that year, she picked all the team mascots.
See that? Yes, exactly. It's all based on mascots,
and she won.
Yep, and
she won.
Yeah. Well, Shay will also be like, "Well, I don't like either of those mascots."
So then, how does she choose?
She doesn't. She basically makes me pick them if she doesn't like the mascots.
Gotcha.
And so Lisa's basically saying that Sundays are fast becoming your favorite day of the week, and Homer says, not Sunday, Daddy-Daughter Day.
Oh.
Yep. And so Homer goes to Mo and tells him the usual, a beer and a lot of bills.
Man.
And I love how Mo's just getting all like, it's like, I don't know how you're so lucky.
Because he's got Lisa.
And then I like how Mo pulls a wad of cash from his cowboy boots, which apparently Mo wears cowboy boots on occasions.
Yes.
And then Homer tells Mo, I used to hate the smell of your sweaty feet. Now it's the smell of victory. Which we learn is a line from the play.
Play on a line.
1979 movie Apocalypse Now, which I used to hate the smell of your sweaty feet. Now it's the smell of victory. So.
Yes.
From Apocalypse Now. That's a good pull. They're getting a little bit more...
To the 80s.
To the 80s. They're moving up a little bit, right?
They got out of the 40s and 50s.
Their references are starting to get to where we know them.
Yep.
And so Homer takes his family to the Gilded Truffle because...
It's fancy.
It's fancy and he's winning a lot of money.
Yep.
And I love how Marge gets suspicious of all the money and where it's coming from. And Lisa says it's okay for a man to do something nice for his loved ones. So she's trying to cover for him.
Yes.
And so
the
waiter comes by and says he'll be their waiter. And Homer immediately says, hi, I'm Homer Simpson. I will be your customer.
That's a funny one. I haven't heard that before.
Oh, that was great. That was a great line. And it's funny because this is just another one of those Simpsons did it moments because I've heard that from so many people.
I don't know if it's a Simpsons did it moment. I bet you that was done in the 70s.
I think it was maybe, but I think it was definitely popularized.
Popularized, yes,
by the Simpsons.
Yeah.
And so Bart decides to pick the wine, and he's like, "I don't like this wine list."
Probably can't read it.
Well, maybe. And then
he might be able to read the wines, but he probably doesn't understand wine.
And then he tells the waiter to bring their freshest wine, which their oldest, newest.
Best?
I don't know.
And so the guy walks off, and then Homer gets the violin guy, and he pays the violin guy off to play Lisa's favorite song, which apparently dude knows by heart.
Yep, Lisa's favorite song is the Broken Neck Blues.
And the guy's able to play it, so good for the violinist. Yeah. He deserves that money.
Yep.
So now we cut back to the Simpsons household. And the NFL playoffs are here. So we've gone through 8 weeks.
Yes, which
in 10 minutes.
I think that's the one thing about The Simpsons that is so weird. Because in these early seasons, as we've noticed, there's a lot of time gaps and I just don't necessarily know what The Simpsons writers are thinking. So we're not aging them, but we're progressing through time.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know,
I think it's better if you don't think about
it. But I feel like in these early seasons, I thought they were going to have this takes place within 1 year, kind of like sitcoms.
Yeah,
like sitcoms.
Well, doesn't South Park now kind of does that?
Yeah, but even sitcoms in the 80s and 90s. Their writing schedule basically was like, okay, we have Halloween when Halloween shows up. We have
except for that 70s show because they kind of got a little bit out of whack because of the holiday episodes.
Yeah, but that's where I thought the Simpsons were going. But now we're like flash forwarding in time. But to be fair, this episode was released the 23rd of 92, which means, yes, this is playoff time because in a couple weeks would be the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So we see in the stadium, there's a guy with red and blue body paint on, which is the color of the New York Giants, who did not make the playoffs that year.
Are you sure one half of his body wasn't painted red and the other half was frostbite?
Well, that is possible. It's in New York. It was snowing. That's very possible. But I'm going to go with he was body painted blue and red. And so Lisa picks the Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. And that year, the Chiefs beat the Raiders and Dallas beat the Bears.
That's crazy. I mean, that's if you're talking about a Simpson prediction,
that's crazy.
That is a Simpson prediction for you folks right there.
Yeah, and so Lisa calls in the bet because Homer is like, "Hey, you can call in the bet." And then the next scene we see
what was it? LS for HS.
And then the next scene
after Mo was like, "Okay, fine, just give me the bet."
And then the next scene, we see Homer walking in, picking up his winnings, and so while he's there, actually, so I think this was the championship weekend. Which is weird, because I thought that first week would have been wild card week, because that was those games. The Chiefs and Raiders and Dallas and Bears was actual wild card weekend.
Right.
So I don't know if this skipped ahead in time, or they're just like, oh, this is going to be the championship weekend, and we're done with it. So while Homer's picking up his winnings, Barney asks him to go bowling on Super Bowl Sunday. Come on, Barney. And Homer's like, oh, what about the following Sunday? And Barney's like, oh, my mom is coming in from Norway. But what the hell?
Yeah. So apparently Barney's Norwegian?
Either that or maybe his mom was visiting Norway.
All right.
Just went on. I mean, you went to Italy. You and Shay went to Italy. You're not Italian.
All right.
So it's either A, he's Norwegian, or B, his mom went to Europe.
Is Gumbel a Norwegian last name?
I don't know. Let's ask Brian Gumbel. He might know.
Right.
So, so here we go. The Chiefs, Raiders, Bears, Cowboys games were on the wild card weekend, and so there's that. So we don't really know if these games in The Simpsons were wild card weekend or if it was championship weekend.
Yep.
And so next we go to Springfield Elementary School, where Lisa's class is giving a presentation on the happiest day of their life, and Ralph's happiest day was when he found out.
Here we go. I got it.
He didn't have worms anymore.
Yep. He's like, when the doctor said I didn't have worms anymore, that was the happiest day of my life. Thank you, Ralph. Very graphic. I love that. Lisa Simpson, would you like to read your essay? And Lisa, the happiest day of my life was 3 Sundays ago. I was sitting on my daddy's knee when the Saints, who were 4.5-point favorites, but only up by 3, kicked a meaningless field goal at the last second to cover the spread.
Quick question. This isn't the first episode with Miss Hoover, is it?
No, I don't think so.
But she does have blue hair.
Yes. Yeah, that was the weird thing, because I think normally she has brown hair, correct?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I know Krabappel has brown hair.
Yeah.
So I think Miss Hoover has blue hair.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that and come back, but I thought she had brown hair.
And then I love how Miss Hoover is
Dear
just
God.
I don't understand that reaction from her. Is it because Lisa was gambling?
I think so, yeah.
And so
an 8-year-old gambling? I think that's...
But Lisa's super smart.
Right.
So then we find out Homer bought Lisa every Malibu Stacy accessory except for the Malibu Stacy Lunar Rovers because they were out.
Yes.
Apparently that was a huge Malibu Stacy accessory.
Yep. And so with his gambling winnings, Homer buys Marge a bottle of perfume by Meryl Streep.
Yep.
The perfume is called Versatility. So you can wear it anywhere.
Yep.
And the bottle is shaped like an Academy Award.
Well, I think it's more on Meryl Streep because she's very, very versatile as an actress.
Oh, I guess so.
Because, Meryl Streep is amazing.
Yeah, and she won an Academy Award. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to play this off. She's going to make a bottle of perfume that looks like my Academy Award.
Yes.
And so Maggie got a stuffed elephant.
But
she tossed it aside to play with the bubble wrap. That's every kid ever. My kid will do that in a heartbeat.
He'll get like the coolest toy ever, but there's bubble wrap and he'll play with that instead.
Or the box, either way. And then Homer buys Bart an electronic button machine that says, shut up, kiss my butt, and go to hell. Go to hell. Go to hell. Go to hell.
And I love how Bart's like, I will never get tired of this present. And then we never see it again.
Nope.
I mean, we see it again in this episode, but after this episode, we never see it again.
Yep. And so Homer asks Marge to promise that she won't get... So they're in bed, and Marge was really like, okay, all right, you got to tell me where you got the money. Yeah. And then Homer is like, promise you won't get mad. It's like, I can't tell you. I can't promise I won't get mad.
Because whenever he promises her to do that, she gets mad.
Yep. And so Marge promises to get mad because she always knows that Homer gets mad, or she gets mad whenever Homer tells her anything.
Yes.
So Homer tells Marge anyway that him and Lisa have been betting on gambling, or betting on football.
Yep.
And Marge gets mad.
You promised you wouldn't get mad. No, I promised I will get mad.
And then so Homer says, shouldn't parents encourage their children when they show talent? But Marge says gambling is illegal, and Homer says only in 48 states, which...
Utah is one of them.
So they're in...
Well, as we'll learn in a later episode, we get to see their address again.
Yep.
It says Springfield, USA.
Well, it does, yes. Yeah. But it's illegal in 48 states.
So maybe they're in Nevada?
But it is illegal in Springfield. So Utah would be one of those 48s.
Yeah. Okay, then.
Yeah, it's because Nevada, it is legal.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So Homer says gambling is a victimless crime, and the only victim is Mo.
Technically, I mean, yes and no, it can be a victimless crime. I mean
until you get to loan sharks breaking your legs.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like theoretically, if you're welching on bets and either not paying out or not collecting, yes, it's bad.
Yes.
And I feel like as a bookie, I think this would be a less violent world if you just took bets from people who could prove they had the money as opposed to just taking random bets anyway. And so I like how Homer bought himself a foot massager and it's like he has it right next to his bed, and then we wake up in the morning and it's now underneath the kitchen table.
Yep.
And Homer says to trust him, nothing bad could come from gambling.
Foreshadowing.
Yep. And so Lisa asks Homer to go hiking the day after the Super Bowl because
Sunday after the Super Bowl
because they've become great friends. And Homer tells Lisa that Barney and him are going bowling, and he's like, "Oh, the new season's only 7 months away." And now Lisa's like, "Oh, you just wanted me for my brains and gambling."
Like he didn't all he had to say was tell Lisa, "Hey, Barney and I are going bowling. Do you want to come with?"
Or that.
That's all he had to say, and then he went to Nevada Welch on his Daddy-Daughter Sunday.
Yep.
But Homer is dumb.
It is fun. I don't know if I think it's definitely a way later season, like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that range, where they actually have another Daddy-Daughter Day episode.
Okay.
Where they go to a museum and stuff like that. Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
That's kind of cool that they bring that sort of thing back. So Lisa has a nightmare about gambling, and she's at the casino.
I've been gambling since I was 8 years old.
Yeah, right.
She's smoking, and that's how the sound of her voice is.
And she bet her wedding rings or something
from her third husband.
Yeah. And then she wakes up like, oh my God, that's my life, apparently. And so Lisa, gets up. She's like, okay, Malibu Stacy, you're going back in the box. She's like, look around you, Malibu Stacy. All this was bought with dirty money. Your penthouse, your Alfa Romeo, your collagen injection clinic.
Why do you need that for a doll?
Well, because you have to pretend that you're getting plastic surgery and such. And so I like how Lisa uses her Corey poster to announce to the neighborhood she's giving away all of her Malibu Stacy accessories.
And that kind of works as a megaphone, but not really.
No, I've tested it, and it's not as loud as you would think it would be. But apparently there's a gang of girls just hanging out outside, jumping rope or whatever, and they're like, come on, and Bart just gets trampled by them.
Oh my God, that's great. And so, after all the kids ransack Lisa's room for all the accessories, Homer walks in and he goes, look, I bought you a Malibu Stacy chinchilla coat. And I love how this girl comes back and just yoinks it. So then Homer apologizes to Lisa and almost makes up with Lisa until he asks her if she thinks the Redskins will beat the spread.
Yep.
And she's like, then she tells Homer that Washington is a lock, but she might subconsciously want Homer to lose, so maybe pick Buffalo. And Homer says, complete this sentence. Daddy should bet all his money on, and he kind of waves his hand, and then Lisa just goes, I don't know, because she is angry at Homer. And so then she goes, all right, Washington, you bet on Washington, or if Washington wins, I still love you. If Buffalo wins, I don't.
Yep.
So Homer's like, I'm going to bet on Washington. Although he doesn't make a bet.
He doesn't make a bet.
So now we get to Super Bowl 26. And yes, to answer your question in a second, the announcer said they're being broadcast in 150 countries. And then I love how we cut to Paris, where we see the winemakers from the Crepes of Wrath watching it. And then they turn the channel to Krusty I think it was Krusty the Clown, not Professor Frank.
Oh, was it?
I think it was an Itchy and Scratchy show.
Oh, okay.
And yes, I believe Super Bowl 26, I think it was either Super Bowl 26 or 27 was in the Metrodome.
Okay, so that was kind of cool that they pulled that.
And so now, Lisa's in her bedroom and she's playing her sax and Homer's downstairs and he goes, oh, every note is like a dagger in his heart. I can't stay around here. So he gets up and goes to Moe's.
Yep.
I mean, Lisa's sad. He can't be there. And so, Homer goes in and Moe's like, I can't do it anymore. He tells Homer he's out of the bookie business. And then I love how Barney's like, he's about to tell Homer that Moe is still taking bets. But then Moe's like, Barney, shut up. Here's a free beer.
Wasn't it Flaming Moe episode where he said he doesn't give out free beer?
But here's the thing. He doesn't want Homer to know that he's still giving out. Because as we learn in a little bit, he takes the free beer back.
Okay, so I don't know exactly when in this scene it happened, but there is one funny thing I wanted to mention.
Sure.
So Herman is seen at Moe's Tavern in kind of the background area holding a pool cue.
Okay.
Though with one arm, it's unclear how he's able to play the game.
You can play with one arm. It's not easy.
I don't know if it's very accurate.
I haven't played a full game with just one hand, but I've done it with one hand. It's not easy.
Well, yeah. So
maybe Herman's really good at pool with one hand.
For a lot of practice.
Yeah.
All right. So we get Troy McClure as basically a guest co-host for the Super Bowl, which I guess is not necessarily uncommon to have a celebrity co-host. I don't know.
Or like a guest appearance.
Maybe. And so Troy McClure is there to promote his new sitcom, Handle with Care, in which he plays a retired cop who shares an apartment with a retired criminal.
We're the original Odd Couple, which obviously is a reference to the show Odd Couple.
Yep, and I like how it premieres right after the Super Bowl. So even nowadays, there are big shows.
Family Guy's series premiere was after a Super Bowl. Yep. I remember that. That was a huge day, and now they kind of
Yep, so Troy decides to do the show because he got in trouble with the IRS. So he didn't really want to do the show, but, he was in trouble. So we learned that Buffalo is winning at half, 14-7, and the real-time halftime score was 17-0 Washington.
Yes, Washington and Buffalo did play in the Super Bowl.
So either way, Lisa loves Homer. Well, I guess now Lisa doesn't love Homer. I guess they had to do, they didn't know obviously the outcome.
Buffalo wins. She doesn't love Homer.
Yes.
So.
Yep. And so the real 1992 Super Bowl halftime show was not received well. Kind of like this halftime show, which was a spaceship thing, and
the real. I kind of looked it up. I tried to find like a review of that halftime show, and all I could find.
Video? Could you find a video of it?
I found some video. It looked awful.
Who was the halftime show supposed to be?
I forget who it was that year.
No, I'm just wondering who it was supposed to be this year.
Oh, for the real one this year?
No, for the...
Oh, it was Aliens.
Aliens?
Yes.
Well, I mean, to be fair, these Super Bowl halftime shows are completely wacko nuts anyways. Yeah. So, I feel like, if I had to take a guess, maybe they were thinking Blink-182 doing the Alien song, right?
I don't know.
I don't know if Blink-182 was big in 92.
I don't think they were.
I don't know. If you guys know who the real Super Bowl halftime show was in 1992, let us know.
Yes.
So Bart wants snipers to take out the singers because that's how bad it was.
Oh my god.
And then Lisa kind of wanders in and asks Bart who's winning, and he says, "You hate dad is up by a touchdown." And so now there's a Duff Bowl commercial that airs, during the halftime, which is reference to the Bud Bowl ads for Budweiser. So I thought that was kind of a cool.
That was kind of cool.
Cool reference. But the funny thing is, wasn't Barney, Barney was confused by Homer's bet. He's like, "Hey, you said if Duff Dry wins, Lisa loves you."
No, if Washington wins.
And so now we cut to the church, where there are 3 people in it, and Lovejoy reminded them about it.
About the game.
About the Super Bowl, and then, they left, and that's how it was one person. Now, were they hosting church at night? Because
I think there's night church. Some churches hold it at night, I think.
But it's Sunday, so they would have been church in the morning. I mean, I don't know if they do. I know multiple churches nowadays will do several services because of the sheer size of the congregation. So they'll do like a 7, 9, 11 sort of thing. But I don't think unless it's like Christmas where they do like midnight
I don't
mass.
know. My other question, so I again, maybe this is like a second service, because I was like, well, where's Ned Flanders? There's no way he would miss church, but if he already did the morning service.
Well, yeah. So I it's kind of weird to show this. I get it's Sunday, it's church.
Yeah.
I don't think it definitely makes sense. I don't think the whole church at night would make sense. And the Super Bowl isn't during the day, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And if by some reason Flanders did not attend church, we also know that apparently he hangs out at Flaming Moe's and does nighttime weird activities. So maybe he's... I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. So at the end, Washington wins the Super Bowl. And in real life, they won 37-24.
Which was a Simpsons prediction. And the following year, they substituted out Washington for Dallas, and Dallas won it the following year.
So now this prediction I don't hear as commonly as I do a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
So for you folks out there that have never heard this prediction, it is true. The Simpsons predicted the 91-92 Super Bowl winners.
Yes.
So
winner,
crazy.
Not winners.
Sure, winner.
Winner.
Well, technically they picked the teams.
They did pick a lot of the right teams.
Yeah, so Simpsons really went out on a...
I wonder if they did some research from like the year prior when they wrote this episode.
I don't know. It's really crazy to think that...
Now we need to talk to somebody who wrote this episode.
Yes, we're going to get them on the horn and just ask a few quick questions.
Yes.
So Homer's happy about Washington winning, and Moe asks why, because Homer didn't win any money.
Because his little girl loves him.
Yep.
So, and he does reply, he won something that will last for at least the next 8 years. I mean, maybe.
Well, Lisa turns 16, and teenagers, man.
But how do we know she won't stop loving him at like 13?
Yeah, fair enough.
So now we go to the following Sunday, where Homer and Lisa go hiking at Mount Springfield. And I love how Homer's out of breath because, he's really out of shape. And so they sit down.
Well, look at all the snacks he ate during the football season.
And they sit down, and I love how, like, Homer's like, can we go home after I catch my breath? So
yes.
And then in the distance, you can see the tire fire, which is kind of
awesome.
cool. And so then we get to the end credits, and we hear the marching band playing the Simpsons theme song, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, different ending to episode.
So
other than the traditional,
Simpsons. And they do that a lot with the different endings. I mean, in the episode with our guest there's a somewhat different ending as well.
Yep.
So we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But for this episode, I enjoy it. I enjoy the predictions. I enjoy the jokes. You got Troy McClure coming back. You got Phil Hartman coming back to voice. His episodes are really, really good. I'm never too keen on the episodes where it's a Homer Lisa-centric episode, just because I don't think I relate to him as much. Because, I'm not a girl. And so, I mean, but it's a very good episode. I love the fact that this is like, they predicted the Super Bowl winner, and the following year they're like, "Oh, okay, let's."
Well, not only the winner, they predicted the teams that were going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was kind of impressive. I don't know if that was a string of 4 Super Bowl losses for Buffalo. It might have been, because I know it was in the mid '90s when they lost 4 in a row. They're the only team to ever go to 4 Super Bowls in a row and lose them all. And the funny thing, I always like to joke about this. Because, with the Super Bowl, like, in the Super Bowl, they always print out shirts for both teams.
Oh, yeah.
And, the losing team always gets sent to, like, Africa, needy kids or Africa. So there are kids in Africa who think the Buffalo Bills are 4-time Super Bowl champions. But anyways, I like it. I'm not going to go as so far as to give it a 5. I don't think it reaches that level for me. But definitely a superb episode. It is a 4 sprinkles for me.
I don't know. I mean, I liked it for what it was, but I'm going to go 3, don't have a cowman. It's so weird how, like, I love the predictions. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for the prediction, I don't know if I would even rate it that high. But the Ralph Wiggum, that is one of, hands down, one of my favorite Ralph Wiggum quotes. I didn't have worms anymore.
That doesn't even register in the top 3 for me.
I mean, that was just, I think that's the first major Ralph Wiggum quote, is it not?
Yeah, it would be.
Like, I feel like that's like Ralph Wiggum dumbest, like, that's right where it comes in.
I didn't have worms anymore.
I mean, that was perfect. I mean, I love the daddy-daughter stuff, because it kind of, I mean, my kid's only going to be turning 3, so I don't necessarily have that sort of necessarily bond yet, but... Yeah. I do like that, but I think the downside is the timing. Like, it doesn't make sense to have... I mean, I get why they did it. I just don't understand...
As Andy would like to say, it's for comedic effect.
No, I get that. I mean, the only way to make it make sense is to have an entire football season, or half of a football season in 1 year. So that I get, but it really just... I don't know. It doesn't have... as funny of stuff as I'd like in the Simpson episode. It was definitely a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
I mean, the lock of the week, the shoe of the week was funny. Professor Frink seemed really out of character, I think, for
I don't know.
that type of episode.
I don't know. It seemed like in character for Professor Frink to do that kind of thing. He's a kooky scientist.
He is. So, I'm going to go 3, don't have a cowman. But one other thing we didn't mention about the Gilded Truffle. Yes. This actually marks a return visit. Oh. Because the first trip came from Treehouse of Horror 2 in the Monkey's Paw segment.
Oh, that's right.
Which that was the first appearance. Yes. So, Treehouse of Horror can be technically canon if they made a restaurant exist in a Treehouse of Horror.
Or maybe it already existed and they just used it in the Treehouse of Horror episode.
Maybe. I guess we'll never know for sure.
Nope.
So why don't we close it out like we always do with our character profile. And this week we have Smooth Jimmy Apollo.
Voiced by the one and only Phil Hartman.
Yep. And so we have his occupation, professional football protagonist on
Prognosticator.
TV. Professional football prognosticator on TV.
Protagonist? Do you know what a protagonist is?
Sure. His accuracy rate, 52%.
Which means he's wrong 48% of the time.
Yes, but he's better than 50, so that's pretty good. Chief prop, a huge lock that is slapped on a table to illustrate his Lock of the Week pick. And his Lock of the Week accuracy rate is...
52%.
52%. His turn-ons, being right and not being wrong.
I guess.
Yep, and turn-offs, being wrong. Compulsive gamblers who take his advice.
Well, and I mean, he says that in the show, like, don't take my advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Never take expert advice, because, again, it's a 50... Now, you can kind of know... If a team's like 6-0 and destroying everybody, you can kind of guess that they're probably going to win. Like this year, Pittsburgh was really good, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to roll over Washington, and Washington beat them. Because guess what? Pittsburgh was not a good team this year.
Yeah, but I like how he's like, our first game today is Denver and New England. It's too close to call. But if you're one of those compulsive types who just have to bet, well, I don't know, Denver. So at that point, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to trust you.
Yes.
So let's close it out with where you can find us. So head over to Instagram and find us, The Simpsons Did It Pod. You can head over to Twitter, Simpsons Did It PC. On Facebook, The Simpsons Did It Podcast. Just search the page and follow on there. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube. Just search Simpsons Did It Podcast.
Are we up to date now there?
Not quite yet. We're almost there, but majority of them you can find on there. And if you like to support our podcast, which we love our supporters, head over to the Simpsons Did It Pod on buymeacoffee.com/Simpsons Did It Pod. Make sure to put in your suggested donation of 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you want.
Or give us some feedback.
Whatever you'd like. Make sure you go to Apple Podcasts, do a review if you have time. Shoot us an email, message on Facebook or Instagram. Let us know how we're doing. We do get amazing feedback week in and week out. So I'm glad you guys like it. I'm glad you guys keep coming back and listening. And, we just keep getting more and more followers as the weeks go on. So it tells me that you guys love our content. So if you do want to support us, we have stickers and whatnot that we can give away, and we'll mail them to you just for saying thanks, and we love your support. So until next time, I'm Steven Skolansky.
I'm your co-host Robert Skolansky,
and this has been The Simpsons Did It.
Shh.